Hello everyone, back to today's second video. We've already done the weekend forecast. You can find that video on the homepage. There's also the written version. You can get to that at the top of the page. After all of the hot weather over the past few days, we're back to cooler conditions in the week ahead. But I'll let you have a look at weekend forecast and see what you think. This is April's ENSO update, so I'm going to bring you up to date with all of the latest developments in the Pacific Ocean in terms of ENSO. Of course, we have the La Nina cold event through the second half of last year and through the winter. It is weakening now. It's moving back towards ENSO neutral, and we'll have a look at some models to see where we're expecting ENSO to go over the next few months as we get through into the summer and into the autumn as well. So that's what we're going to be doing for today's second video. I'm going to start off having a look at the latest from the Climate Prediction Centre in terms of the warm and cold episodes by season charts. So these are depicting all ENSO events going right way back to 1950 on a tri-monthly basis. So this is the year of 1950, and we see, for example, in 1950 we did have a cold event. La Nina was taking place in the equatorial Pacific Ocean at that time. So you can see from these negative blue numbers here, that is depicting the cold event, the La Nina, that was happening during the winter of 49-50 and going into the middle of 1950. And then we see that in the second half of 1950, whilst we do keep negative numbers, they turn black. So we go back to ENSO neutral, but on the negative side of ENSO neutral. To get either a La Nina or an El Nino event designated, you have to meet quite strict criteria. You have to have the temperature anomaly. Let's assume it's La Nina, but it's saying for El Nino, a warm event too. You have to, for your temperature anomaly in the central part of the Pacific Ocean, go down to minus 0.5 degrees or lower below average. And you have to do that over 5 tri-monthly periods. So, for example, for this this La Nina event just here in 1950, we have more than 5 tri-monthly periods. Of course, can't see 1949 either, but have more than 5. So we meet that criteria of getting those negative numbers over the 5 or more tri-monthly periods. The other factor that you have to do with this is in terms of ENSO, in terms of El Nino, I should say, you have to go to or above 0.5 degrees above average. So it's same criteria for both of these events that have to be met. And again, you have to do it over the 5 tri-monthly periods as well. So let's go down to this year, to 2017-18, and we can see that has been big developments actually, because we have had our La Nina event designated. So this is 2017 just here. You see it's a very late start of this cold event. Didn't begin until the tri-monthly period of July, August and September. And didn't really pick up until September, October, November. That's very late to begin a ENSO event. So at its peak, we went down to minus 1.0 in the tri-monthly period of November, December, January. Since when, through the first 2 tri-monthly periods of 2018 down here, we have seen a slight weakening, but still staying at that more or less 1 degree below average temperature anomaly. Importantly though, the numbers have turned blue because we have got our 5 tri-monthly periods now. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and the last tri-monthly period for January, February, March. That took us to our 5th tri-monthly period with minus 0.8 degrees. And so consequently, the numbers have turned blue, and that is an official designated La Nina event. A little bit stronger, interestingly, than the La Nina event of the year before, 2016-17. This one just here. That started earlier, more when you expect these ENSO events to start. But that one was very, very weak. This was a little bit stronger, although not particularly strong, La Nina event that has taken place through the winter of 2017-18. So now we have a look at the sea surface temperature anomalies in the equatorial Pacific Ocean, and of course this blue mass here is the signature of the cold event. It's the signature of La Nina. These cold and average sea surface temperature anomalies stretched out across the equatorial Pacific Ocean from Peru over here to Indonesia over here. This is how things were looking when we did March's ENSO update. This is from the 22nd of March, how the sea surface temperature anomalies were looking then in the Pacific Ocean. Let's go through to the very latest. I can show you the very latest from the 19th of April. And, well, you can see it's not been a huge amount of change, but there has been a little bit of weakening compared to last month. So, again, that situation in terms of the sea surface temperature anomalies in the equatorial Pacific Ocean last month. This is the latest now. Obviously, we have weakened the cold signature quite a bit, although there is still a fairly marked cold signature there through the equatorial Pacific Ocean. It has actually strengthened a little bit in the shallower waters over towards Peru. Those waters are prone to rising and falling temperatures with the weather conditions, so not necessarily all that impactful. I think the main region you have to focus on is the much deeper waters in the central part of the equatorial Pacific Ocean, and there we have seen a weakening of the La Nina signal. So it's taken its time, but it was a late starter and it is a late finisher, but we are very gradually coming out of the cold event, as you would normally expect us to do in the spring. We normally go back to ENSO neutral, and then it's a case of seeing where you go beyond that. Now, this is the subsurface temperature anomaly. So what you just looked at there was the sea surface temperature anomalies of the equatorial Pacific. This is how things are looking at depth in the equatorial Pacific underneath the surface. So if you think that this is the surface of the equatorial Pacific Ocean just here, so we'd have Peru over there and we'd have Indonesia over here, and then this is the depths of the ocean going down here, going down to around 300 meters at its lowest depth. So this blue area just here, that's the cold sea surface temperature anomalies that we're just looking at over towards Peru. So we see, but it does go down to quite a depth actually, that cold area just off the Peruvian coast. But again, I have to emphasise that is reasonably shallower waters near the coast, and so it is prone to quite dramatic temperature swings. Actually, further into the deeper waters of the Pacific Ocean, here going down to quite a depth, between around 100 and 250 meters. We do see that we have got quite a mass of warm water, or warmer than average subsurface temperature anomalies, I should say, lurking at depth underneath the surface of the Pacific Ocean. Could that be signs of El Nino arriving as we go through into the second half of this year, through the summer and into the autumn? I think it's very inconclusive to say about at this stage, but it isn't going anywhere, this warm these warm subsurface temperature anomalies. We saw this when we did last month's ENSO update. Hasn't really intensified any further from last month, so that's one aspect. It's not getting any more intense, this warm temperature anomaly, but it is still there, and it's not breaking up, it's not going anywhere, so it's lurking at depth, and I wouldn't rule out the chance that it might take us to a warm event in the second half of the year, but I think we'll need to see it becoming more intense before we could say that. I think it will definitely take us back to ENSO neutral, though. I think that's what we're going to focus on initially, going into the start of the summer, being an ENSO neutral. But it's not impossible that that might intensify, and if it does and starts to move up towards the surface, then we might have to think about going into a warm event in the second half of the year. Of course, these subsurface temperature anomalies don't always break up to the surface, so this might just stay at depth, never get to the surface of the equatorial Pacific Ocean. If it doesn't, then it won't have any real impacts on the ENSO region. This is the SOI, Southern Oscillation Index from the Bureau of Meteorology in Australia. So the SOI is an index that's just reflecting the state of the atmosphere, as with all of the indexes that we use within weather forecasting, be it the AO, the NAO, the QBO, they all are just indexes that are reflecting the atmospheric state. This particular one, the SOI, is reflecting the atmospheric state between Darwin in Northern Australia and Tahiti in the central Southern Ocean. And what we can say is that when the SOI is in its positive phase, then the atmosphere in the Pacific or in the Southern Pacific Ocean, is going to be reflective of La Nina, of the cold event. When the SOI goes into negative territory, then the atmospheric setup between Darwin and Tahiti will be reflecting an El Nino type state. So obviously, as we've been in a La Nina for the past few months, a cold event, the SOI has been in very positive territory. So, for example, we start here on the 1st of April, just here, and we see for that day, the preliminary SOI number comes out at plus 26.68, a very positive SOI number, telling us that the atmospheric state in the Southern Ocean of the Pacific was reflecting a La Nina, a cold event setup. Let's scroll up to more recent dates. So on the 10th of April and on the 9th and 10th of April, we do go a little bit negative with the SOI event. So just a little bit of a hint, perhaps, in the atmospheric setup of an El Nino type state. Of course, within the general atmospheric setup, you will get days that deviate in any case. So that doesn't tell us at all that we're going into an El Nino. Just tells us that on those 2 dates, the atmospheric setup was more reflective of an El Nino type situation. However, it does look as though these negative numbers are beginning to get a little bit more frequent. So on the 12th of April, for example, we're very positive at plus 18.96, but then on the 14th of April, we're very negative at minus 17.31. And if we go further up to recent days, so the 19th of April comes out slightly negative with the SOI minus 2.5. The 20th of April comes out slightly negative again at minus 4.98. This is the unravelling of the La Nina. This isn't telling us that we're going into an El Nino, going into a warm event, but it is telling us that as the ocean is weakening its La Nina signal, so too is the atmosphere weakening its La Nina signal. So again, it doesn't necessarily say that we're going to go into a warm event. You will need to see many days and weeks of negative SOI numbers before you'll be able to say that we are shifting towards an El Nino state. But it is telling us that we are moving out of La Nina. The atmospheric setup is moving out of La Nina, and so too is the ocean. Do a little bit of forecasting finally, and CFSV2 forecast for region 3.4 of the ENSO region, which is kind of like the central part of the equatorial Pacific, looks like this, just remaining at ENSO neutral. So we've got the dates along the bottom of the chart, the temperature anomalies along the side. This is where we're starting off at for April around here. So we're on the negative side. This is absolute ENSO neutral just there. So we're on the cold side of ENSO neutral. That's minus 0.5, which is the minimum temperature anomaly you have to get to be at La Nina state. So we aren't at a La Nina now. We are in ENSO neutral condition, but it's on the cold side of ENSO neutral. And the CFS ensemble is just forecasting us to stay around ENSO neutral through to the end of the year, which is this period just here. That's January 2019. The black dash line here just hovering around that ENSO neutral line, true ENSO neutral line, through to the end of the year. Maybe signs of a little bit of a pickup onto the positive side of ENSO neutral by the end of the year, but nothing particularly dramatic going on. It may be that we say at ENSO neutral, it's possible that the model just isn't seeing exactly where things are going to go, because we are still at the spring predictability barrier. So in a month or so's time, we might see the model shifting in one direction or another. ECMWF ensemble is going for a weak El Nino. So again, same idea, dates on the bottom of the chart just there. Temperature anomalies are on the side. So what we see with this one is that we're starting off around here, still on the cold side of ENSO neutral. That's true, ENSO neutral just there, still on the cold side of ENSO neutral. But you see from the ensemble plume, that's lifting up quite a lot, much more than the CFS is doing. So the body of the ensemble plume is in that sort of area, around +1 of the temperature anomaly by sort of the end of the summer and into the autumn. So that's going for a move to weak El Nino quite definitively now. It is shifting into not strong El Nino territory, not a strong warm event, but it is shifting towards definitely going on to the warmer side of ENSO neutral and of El Nino. Weak El Nino is very much at odds with what the CFS is showing. And then this is the Jams Tech finally, and again we're starting just here for April, so on the cold side of ENSO neutral. That's ENSO, true ENSO neutral just there. We've got the dates on the bottom, temperature is on the side. So again, starting off around ENSO neutral, but on the cold side of it. The red line is the ensemble mean, and as we go through to the summer and the autumn, that's lifting up towards the warm side of ENSO neutral. So that's in line with what the CFS is showing. They want to keep things at ENSO neutral through the rest of this year, but just take us from the cold side of ENSO neutral to the warmer side of ENSO neutral. ECM is going further than that. The ECMWF model is taking us into an actual El Nino event, albeit quite a weak one, but it is going into an El Nino type setup. So again, that's true ENSO neutral just there. That's like the minimum for an El Nino just there. And you see most ensemble plume members are in that sort of ballpark, going for a weak El Nino type event. So that's quite interesting that the ECM is doing that. Not supported yet by the Jams Tech or by CFS V2. And we're just going to wait and see a little bit longer, because we are, as I've been saying, we are at the spring predictability barrier, which means these models are struggling to get a handle where things are going to go. We'll be coming out of that within the next month or so. So it's possible the ECMWF is overdoing it with that El Nino signal and it'll back off. It's equally possible that the Jams Tech and the CFS will shift towards El Nino within the next month or so. So I suspect we'll know a little bit more when we do May's ENSO update. We're definitely leaving La Nina behind now, I think. But whether it's going to be ENSO neutral or whether we'll go to a weak El Nino, that remains to be seen, and we should know a little bit more next month. Right, don't forget to check out Weekend Forecast if you haven't yet done so. Tomorrow we're going to have the Gazzobi Sunny Roundup, have more summer analogues, and I'm going to have a look at the ECMWF and Meteo France seasonal models for the summer as well. So come back for all the updates tomorrow, but that's all for now, and thanks for watching.